Damn, it says it's 7 o'clock for me, so let's get started. Hey, it's your gal, it's Evie. I'm here and I'm gonna play a little Vampire the Masquerade Night Road for you. This is a text only game. You could say it's interactive fiction of a kind. It doesn't have any music. So the music you're hearing right now is Atmospheric Horror Music Volume 1 by the artist Mello. I'm a big fan of his work, and so if this sounds good to you, just go ahead and check him out on. He's all over the place on YouTube, Twitter, Bandcamp, But okay, let's get this pig kicked, so to speak. Boom, transitioned away from the starting screen, which is a lesson I learned from the last stream I did. Definitely don't just leave it running so people are just looking at my face all the time. Okay, there we go. So when you boot up the game, this is what it shows you. It just drops you in. Gonna open my water real quick. I'm gonna give it just a minute and see if additional people funnel in. Okay, I think I'm ready to get started. I've been dying to play this game. I've seen it bouncing around, just people I know on Twitter who played it and really liked it, as well as another streamer who I watch named Doob, Doobh. She's pretty cool. Check her out if you ever get the chance. She streamed this a little earlier this year, and I was very impressed by it. So I'm excited to try it out for myself. So let's stop stalling. Let's get to it. Vampire the Masquerade Night Road by Kyle Marquis. Chapter 1, Just Getting By. Arizona, I-10 heading west, night of November 1st, sunrise, 6:41 a.m. You're getting ready to pass a diesel Mercedes when the shifter goes all loose. You jiggle the stick and pump the clutch, but it's like holding a dead man's hand. Your old Honda drifts off the highway in a cloud of sand and grit. A moment later, the engine stalls. You pop the hood and fumble around in the back for a flashlight. Then you realize it's getting light out. You can feel that this poor car, your companion for 10 lonely years, is finished. And if you're still out here when the desert sun rises, so are you. Oh, and a quick word. So this is a Vampire the Masquerade game. Vampire the Masquerade, if you're not familiar, is a RPG setting. It's very dark urban fantasy. So very horrible violent things can potentially happen. So consider this like a content warning for violence. I don't think, from what I've seen, there isn't really any sexual content or anything in this thing. But if it starts heading that way, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But there will definitely be violence in here. So just so you're aware. Okay. Cars fall apart. So do people. So do phones. You pull out your old iPhone and check the time in the cracked screen, 6:05 a.m. Unlike your poor Honda or the tattered air freshener hanging from your mirror, which used to hide the smell of dried blood, you'll last forever, if you can find somewhere to hide before 6:41 a.m. You've been making these courier runs for 10 years, each year making less than the last, hiding in trunks and storage units during the day, racing down the desert highways at night with messages and parcels on your passenger seat. It's been boring. It's felt like getting old, trapped in this body that can never age. Well, you're not bored now. You're even breathing again. Short, frightened little breaths as you watch the sky lighten in the east. Nerves you thought extinguished years ago fire up again, making your hands shake. You feel almost alive as you check under the hood. The cable clutch is fucked. No surprise there. Maintenance hasn't been an impossibility, let alone a priority. And when you look at the engine, you realize the problems run deeper than one busted cable. You've been ignoring the warning signs, like an old man who keeps coughing and won't go to the doctor, and the engine looks like you're going to look like it exactly. You check your phone again. 16 minutes. Maybe there's still time. You look around the dusty highway, the wasteland that stretches out to the black horizon in every direction, and try to recall your mortal life. Something you learned when you still drew breath that must have the power to save you here. Okay, so one of the neat things about this game is that it kind of adapts the mechanics of the RPG game to this sort of interactive fiction framework. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the stat check indicator, so we'll know when a stat check happens. Storyteller mode tells you which attributes and skills are used in a check. This makes the game easier and also simulates the experience of the Vampire the Masquerade tabletop game, where the storyteller explains what stats you will check. Storyteller mode only notes the relevant stats, not modifiers due to equipment, previous checks, and distraction caused by your terrible hunger. We can also turn it off at any time. You look around Dusty Highway. Okay. So this is kind of how they do the character building. Like, you're gonna just pick relevant things about your character, and they will kind of become your statistics. So what are our choices here? I grew up poor working on cars. Let's see if I can get this engine running for just a few more minutes. I had lots of mortal friends, and I've kept in touch with some. They might have a good idea if I call one, or at least they can pull up a map on their phones and tell me which way to run. I served in the military. In addition to my combat training, I know how to hide and survive in a desert. I got a good education, and I haven't let my knowledge stagnate now that I'm dead. I use my phone and some maps to figure out where to go. I like the idea of our character here being a gearhead, knowing how cars work, and having that be part of the story. So we're going to pick this first section here. You're no elder. People were already complaining about computers ruining cars when you were a kid. Your parents weren't around to teach you much, and your school was a holding pen that you avoided as much as you could. Instead, you got your license as soon as you could, got out of town, and drove from city to city learning to do what you loved, which was... Okay, so we got driving. I drove all night when I could in a huge old Buick. If I can just get this CRX to roll down a hill, I might be able to find somewhere safe. The wilderness, the wasteland roads between cities. I love taking my old Jeep off-road. Even now, I think I can look around and find some shelter before it's too late. Hustling. I ran scams, made contacts, got by on my wits, all from an old Plymouth van. There's no one to talk to here, but I'm clever enough to find my way out. Doing crimes. My talent for larceny is wasted here. The old Trans Am I drove then is long gone, and I don't even have a gun. But maybe I swiped something that can help me. Machinery. I drove whatever I could keep running and paid off, so I learned mechanics, repairs, chemistry. Maybe I can get this engine to turn over one last time. Let's see. I mean, doing crimes, right? We're a crime doer. You dig around in the glove compartment, finding only a few maps and an expired Cliff Bar to give you the appearance of life. Then you check under the seat, a broken folding knife, a Michigan ID of someone who sort of looks like you, some ninja rocks for breaking car windows, a rusty Leatherman. Worthless. But if there's one thing you learned getting into trouble as a kid, it was when to walk away. The situation is fucked, and your car is now a death trap. Rather than wait to burn, you grab the satchel with your deliveries and head away from the highway, looking for anything that might save you from destruction. An old mine shaft, an abandoned shack, anything. The stars to the east are gone, replaced by a blue-purple haze. It's 6:30 a.m. You remember the last time you saw the sun. You were working at Target, trying to save up enough to fix the busted sound system in your Mitsubishi Eclipse. You worked the evening shift, so you stopped in the parking lot to watch the sun vanish behind the hills. Then you went inside, and halfway through your shift, your death was waiting on the loading dock. When you rose again, burning with hunger and sticky with your own blood, your killer did not call you kindred or Canaanite or vampire. First, you learned about your clan, your lineage, a bloodline that existed since before history, before all cities except one. Your killer said you belonged to... Okay, so this is introducing the concept of clans. In Vampire the Masquerade, it basically determines what kind of vampire you are, what weird vampire powers you have, and kind of like sort of what flavor of supernatural asshole you are. So the choices are, we've got Clan Ventru, the Clan of Kings, the Monarchs of the Night, masters of dreadful mental powers and rulers of the undead world. Clan Tremere, scholars, conspirators, and blood sorcerers. Clan Toreador, artists, seducers, philosophers of sensation and manipulation. Clan Gangrel, half corpse, half animal, undead shapeshifters and beastmasters. Clan Bruja, once a clan of philosopher kings, now punks, outcasts, and would-be revolutionaries. Clan Banu Hakim, descendants of a godlike killer and lawgiver, sorcerers and assassins. Though I hide the truth, I am without a clan, one of the Caitiff. Alright, so I kind of want to avoid playing a Bruja because that's what I play in the Vampire the Masquerade game that I am actually in. So I want to maybe try something a little bit different. Let's see. So the Ventru are kind of like... These tend to be like business dudes, kinda. What they sort of filter towards. Blood sorcery sounds kind of cool. Let's see. Kind of want to do Banu Hakim here. Or maybe just go with Bruja, because Bruja are kind of... I think Bruja are kind of the coolest. Let's do Banu Hakim. Oh boy. Already regretting this choice. Originally from the Middle East, the Assamites were once feared assassins and sorcerers. They have recently entered into a tentative alliance with the Camarilla, the Vampire Shadow Society of Europe and the Americas. Disciplines: blood sorcery, celerity, obfuscate. Some Banu Hakim focus on rituals, while others favor inhuman speed and the powers of invisibility. Clan weakness: thirst for vitae. Banu Hakim are compelled to commit diablerie, the sin of draining another vampire, body and soul. So like you could basically consume other vampires as a vampire, and you get their power. Kind of like how the immortals in Bacano can just eat each other. It's considered a very rude thing to do. Let's take a... I want to see what the... I want to be reminded what the Ventru have. The Clan of Kings rules from the shadows, controlling modern boardrooms as they once controlled courts and cathedrals. The mental powers of the Blue Bloods also protect the Masquerade. Discipline, dominate, fortitude, presence. Ventru study two distinct paths of mental control. Presence is more subtle, dominate more direct. Some are also nearly indestructible, even when exposed to banes like fire or sunlight. Clan weakness, refined palate. Ventru cannot drink bagged or animal blood, and most are restricted to a particular kind of human prey. No thank you. What about Gangrel? Take a look at the Gangrel. Okay. The savage outlanders are ship-shifting beastmasters who, almost alone among vampires, can survive outside of cities. Disciplines: animalism, fortitude, protean. Gangrel flesh is both hardy and able to change its form. The outlanders also have various powers over living animals. So animalism is like... It's kind of like werewolf stuff. Like, in the sense that... Or like, being able to have like familiars and like see through the eyes of animals and stuff like that. Fortitude is basically like hardiness, supernatural like durability and things like that. Protean is like growing claws and stuff, and like actually changing your body to do ridiculous stuff. Clan weakness: feral. Gangrel struggle to relate to normal humans, especially as their humanity declines. Okay. I'm gonna look at the Caitiff and then continue. Not a clan at all. Caitiff vampires are the clanless, those whose blood is too thin or whose education was too inadequate for them to join a proper clan. Disciplines varies based on ancestry and inclination. Clan weakness, outcast. The Camarilla has little respect for Caitiff, and other vampires don't treat them well either. So Caitiff are kind of like, they either tend to be like kind of too, they're like diet vampires. They kind of don't have the ability to, they don't like have sort of these strong clan identities that all the other clans do, but they are a little bit more like, they have kind of a wider variety as a result. But also other vampires just treat them uniformly like shit. So it's not exactly a cakewalk to be a Caitiff. We might as well just check out the Tremere too, as long as we're here. The usurpers of Clan Tremere are said to descend from a mortal wizard who stole immortal life from an ancient vampire. Once organized into a disciplined arcane hierarchy, the sorcerers of Clan Tremere are in turmoil after the destruction of their greatest occult stronghold. Disciplines, auspex, blood sorcery dominate. Though famous for their thaumaturgy, their intricate sorceress tradition, many Tremere also possess supernaturally acute senses and the power to command mortals with a word. Clan weakness, frail blood, is manifest in different ways for different usurpers. Some mend their flesh slowly, others cannot form blood bonds or create ghoul servitors. This actually sounds pretty good. Auspex is just like supernatural senses, like being able to like sense things that mortals would not be able to. Blood sorcery is, blood magic. Dominate is like mind control. That sounds pretty good, actually. I think we might be a Tremere. Yeah, let's do Tremere. I like the idea of someone who was was not great at school and ended up in like the scholar, like the fucking nerd clan, basically. That could be fun. Long ago, a hidden society of wizards sought more than power and mastery. They wanted immortality. The head of their order, a wizard named Tremere, thought he had found it in the blood of an ancient vampire. Tremere thought he knew the price he would pay, but though the Elder's blood granted Tremere and his followers eternal life, it also destroyed their magic. As wizards, they had shaped reality with will alone, as a sculptor shapes wet clay. But vampires are not artists. They're corpses, and the magic of Clan Tremere was dead. But they still had their iron will and their urge for mastery, and with that they survived into modern nights, each Tremere loyal to the one above, an invincible pyramid of obedience and secrecy. And then the pyramid shattered, and your sire, the sorceress scientist Invidia Call, stuffed a bunch of trash bags full of arcane marvels and hoofed it out of New York, leaving you behind, half-trained and beset by enemies. But before she left, she gave you vision and purpose. You were... So what was our relationship to this person? I was her apprentice, an occultist in life. I was mostly a con artist. I kept those skills even as I unlocked real power. Her head of scientific occult research. Dr. Call dreamed of unlocking a technology out of the spirit and needed me to organize the research teams. A philosopher of blood sorcery. Clan Tremere wanted not just magic power. But to regain the pure and effortless wizardry commanded in the Mythic Age, though through intuition, ritual, and harrowing wilderness journeys, I helped Call seek that return to enlightenment. A seer, oracle, and given my gifts, supernatural security expert. My keen senses guarded her laboratory, watched for intruders, and saw things no one else could see. Her enforcer and get whatever she wants specialist. The Tremere are not usually warriors, but I carried a blade and a deadly stare that left my enemies quaking. Okay, so this wasn't clear, but this is sometime after we were turned into vampires. This is basically what happened after we got turned, and then this lady turned us, and then we did this is our role with her after we became a vampire. Let's see. Magic power. Tuition, rituals, I think Enforcer sounds the most like where this character is kind of going. Either Enforcer or like Philosopher. Philosopher in the sense of just like she's... well, Philosopher maybe doesn't work. I think maybe these two. One of these two. Honestly, this last one sounds right just because our character is still a courier, which sounds like someone who knows how to acquire things. So first, Enforcer and gets whatever she wants specialist. That's what we were. The pyramid of Clan Tremere is heavy with intellectuals and philosophers. A rude person might say it's full of nerds. Despite her iconoclasm and technomagical approach to the blood sorcery of her clan, Invidia Call was like many blood witches, focused on academic pursuits and high culture, for all her thirst for blood. And when the pyramid granted her permission to embrace a child, she did not want an apprentice, another meticulous and thoughtful scholar of thaumaturgy. She wanted someone actually useful. She found you, tough, fearless, comfortable in a fight. You knew how to survive and thrive on the streets. The first thing Invidia taught you was that mortals weren't worth much. She beat you handily, killed you, and explained what happened after your embrace. But then she made her pitch. She needed someone to guard her interests and acquire assets for her research. You weren't going to be a sorcerer, at least not yet. Instead, Invidia would teach you how to control minds, and give you a sword, and a list of criminal societies who fenced arcane paraphernalia. Just like, here's how to control people's minds, and also here's a sword. Very fun. Those were the best few years of your life. Armed with your blade, your burning gaze, and your deep knowledge of New York's streets, you tore through alchemy dens, Tong-affiliated occult shops, and long-buried heretical churches, recovering arcane treasures for Clan Tremere. Your mental powers soon expanded to such a degree that Invidia, frustrated by the stodgy magic of the pyramid, started to consider teaching you the real secrets of her art. She needed just a few more arcane treasures to begin your lessons of thaumaturgy, so you left to find them. When you returned, Invidia was gone. She sent you a warning, though, and you escaped the kill team 5 minutes before they arrived to burn your sire's chantry to ash. It took you weeks to figure out what had happened, but eventually you learned the awful truth. Hunters had destroyed the Vienna Chantry, the greatest arcane fortress of your clan. The pyramid was broken, and now the Second Inquisition was burning its way across the United States. And you were barely a Tremere, just a street fighter with a handful of arcane secrets. You pawned your occult treasures to get out of New York, bought a car, and made your escape. And after all that, 10 years on these miserable desert highways, scraping by on the charity of your elders as you run their errands. If you were still alive, you'd be middle-aged. The elders of the kindred are lies wrapped in flesh. Undeath is no promise of immortality. You've seen 100 Cainites born into the night only to die a few months later at the hands of hunters or their own kind, or just because they didn't know what time it was. Strange that you're going to die young. The air ripples. It smells like burning metal. You never should have bought a hatchback. Your mental powers are useless here alone. You tell yourself that you're not burning, not yet, that the smell is just the scent of your fear. It's someone else's blood simulating sweat on your forehead. It's a familiar smell, actually. Metal, rust, blood. You smell blood. You run towards the smell of blood. Okay. Sorry. The lightning sky reveals an old filling station. Faded sign banging faintly in the slight wind with the creak of metal. Located just off an old frontage road, its windows have been boarded up for years. You don't see blood, and now you can't even smell it, but that doesn't matter. As the first ruby red light touches the hills, only shelter matters. Maybe you have a chance. Though the station looks abandoned, you see footprints in the sand. A golden eagle sits on the stripped diesel dispenser, watching you with unsettling intensity. You approach the main building looking for a way in. The windows and doors are all boarded up, and though there's a garage door for a loading dock, it seems locked. The eagle spreads its wings and screams. You don't have time for this. The sun will kill you, but first it will drive you mad. You can feel the beast rising in you. The beast, the untamed monster that lurks inside every vampire, that drives you to acts of depravity and violence. You're losing control. You need to act now. But that eagle seems to almost have been put here to guard this place. Its talons flex. Alright, so what are our options here? I have skewed sorcery to train both my powers of mental domination and my inhumanly keen senses. Using those gifts of awareness to look for a way inside. I learned a bit of blood sorcery after my sire vanished. Surely I know something to get me inside, or at least get rid of that eagle. My mental powers have been honed to a razor's edge, such that I can command even this eagle. Go, I say. That will give me time to find a way inside. I'm inclined to pick this first one. Although the way that this is phrased is very funny. While you were learning blood sorcery, I honed my mental powers to a razor's edge. I could defeat any foe with just my mind. Let's see. Honestly, blood sorcery sounds pretty dope. I want to do some blood magic. Blood magic! Your battered jacket is full of occult paraphernalia for performing the rituals you know, and running your fingers over them offers comfort even as you feel the beast rising within you, threatening to drive you mad. But there's no ritual you can perform quickly enough. You pull out a heavily modified Kindle loaded with picatrix and related grimoires, a folding knife you have planned to enchant with Assamite death magic, a silver flask intended for a Tremere ritual, covered in scratchy Greek letters. The eagle's eyes snap to the flask, and in that moment you realize this creature is no common beast. It is a famulus, a servant of the blood. The kindred of Clan Gangrel love their hellhounds and ghoul ravens, so this one, yes, it understands what you're holding. How can a famulus recognize an artifact of Tremere blood sorcery? Right now, who cares? This might be your only chance. You wave the silver flask one more time, then hurl it away from you. The eagle flies past you to retrieve the half-finished artifact. Without the distraction of the eagle, you're able to move quickly around the abandoned station. You run to the north side, which will buy you a few more seconds before the light destroys you. And there you find a single open window. As smoke starts to escape from your clothes, you wiggle inside, then crawl kick away from the hole. So we just barely avoid getting vaporized by the sun. A wave of exhaustion hits you as the sun rises fully. The kindred were not meant to remain awake during daylight hours, and you look around for anywhere safe you might rest. There's an old metal-topped freezer beside a counter here, just big enough to hold you, and sealed against sunlight. Inching around the shafts of daylight that filter through the open window and the gaps in the boards, you wrench the old freezer open. It smells like expired milk, but you can't worry about that now. You drop into the old freezer and pull the lid shut. Then you mentally inventory all the things you do need to worry about. Your ruined car, the ache of hunger in your gums, the smell of fresh blood somewhere in this building, the strange eagle. You may not survive another night, but you survived this one. You survived the fall of the pyramid and the disappearance of your sire, Invidia Call. You survived out here in the desert for years, one night at a time. You permit yourself a tight little smile. You can still make it. You can still find a way out of this. And then the blackness of the day sleep swallows you. Chapter 2, Into the Sunset. Arizona, I-10 heading west. Night of November 2nd. Sunrise, 6:42 a.m. If anyone had found you that day in the disused freezer, they would see only a disheveled corpse, and while the sun is in the sky, that's all you are. The blood you got back in El Paso before you hopped in your Honda awakens the moment the sun sets. The return to consciousness is instantaneous and agonizing. You open your eyes in blackness. Your limbs are still heavy, as if crushed by the weight of the sun. As you wait, you think about the Camarilla, and you remember what the elders made you do after Invidia Call disappeared. You were desperate then, and you knew you had to obey. They paired you with another desperate young Cainite, a charming young man named Julian Sim who talked too much. He was something that other kindred called an Assamite. But back then you didn't know if that was just another clan like Tremere or another sect like the Camarilla. No one ever bothered to tell you. Julian had the eager energy of a congressional page and the glittering, patient eyes of a reptile. He was out for himself, and so were you, and that gave you something in common. You remember Julian's lime green geo-tracker crunching to a halt over gravel. You jumped out and felt the sand beneath your feet, still hot hours after sunset, though the night air felt cool. Julian was well dressed despite the rough work, but back then you always wore the same thing when you went out in the desert, coveralls with the name you used sewn on a patch. Not your real name, of course. That person died around the corner from a Target loading dock. You still call yourself... Alright, let's see what choices we got here. Rook, Celeste, Vane, Luca, Ransom, Pyre, or Intertexts. I'm okay with choosing one of these names here. All of these are 100% just like someone who's trying hard. They're just like, all right, now what's my cool vampire name? That's right, I'm a blood sorcerer named Pyre. Those old coveralls let you pass as a maintenance worker just about anywhere. Maintenance worker with a name tag that says Pyre on it. Oh my god. Oh god, our character sucks. It's great. Okay, they were better protection from prying eyes than any Nosferatu's invisibility arts. Carrying water for the ivory tower, eh, Pyre? Julian said with a little chuckle, hoisting the plastic gallon jugs out of the back of the tracker. Each read Buena Suerte or something like that in blue Sharpie. You didn't laugh. This wasn't humanitarian work. Or maybe it was. The desert princes still fear the thing that slept under those sands. They told you that if it woke up hungry, it would tear this land apart. How long you think we're gonna do this? Julian asked. Julian talked too much, but sometimes he cut through the bullshit with words that carried a constellation of meanings. How long? Decades? Centuries? We, neonates, nothing but larvae in the eyes of their elders. And this awful work. Let's see, this is what it is to be a neonate, Julian. We work our way up. We can work our way up forever in the Camarilla. This is how we survive to see another night. As far as he's the only way, completely won't save anyone. I hate to see it work as much as you do. Camarilla claims the after the greater good for all kindred is just a lie. You're supposed to be the visionary, Julian. Give me a reason to walk away, and I will. Let's see. Honestly, yeah, if our character has been like working under like a kind of separate sort of power structure, we have a good reason to not be down with the Camarilla. And the Camarilla being just like basically like the vampire government. They're just like the power structure that rules sort of vampire society. In most cases. So yeah, that choice is the one we're going with. Evil, huh? Julian said. Everything we do is terrible, Pyre. We're supposed to make peace with it so we don't destroy ourselves. I wasn't religious in life, you know. Maybe I'm still not. He lapsed into silence for a moment, then shook his head and said, Anyway, we agree. We can't keep doing this. Even if we're monsters and we don't have souls, we have bodies that the Camarilla will grind into dust the moment it's convenient to them. We need to make plans. A hot desert wind whipped Julian's black hair around his head as he counted the gallons of water. The Camarilla gave you a job they considered necessary, even vital. Desperate migrants stumbled through this part of the desert, fleeing violence in Mexico and Central America for the promise of a better life in the States. Without water, many died. Aid groups dropped water and the supplies for the migrants. The year before, the Camarilla had infiltrated and supplanted one of those aid groups, replacing their members with you and Julian. Your job, position the water above the scattered layers of the Nosferatu Elder, the one known only as Raramus. Raramus. The victims he claimed would be enough blood to prevent his full awakening. This sucks, Julian said as you checked the GPS coordinates on your Garmin. I mean, I know what we are. I know what we do to survive, but this is just so stupid. It's inefficient and wasteful. This was how the world ran 2 or 3 centuries ago, Pyre, before anyone invented flowcharts or assembly lines. It was horrible work, but what choice did I have? It was either that or be destroyed myself. I will never forgive the Camarilla for compromising me like that. It was ugly work, but more people would have suffered if the elder woke up, so I went back to work. They were just food. Why care? It just needed to get done, and maybe the smart ones knew enough to escape. The work was intolerable. I convinced Julian that we needed to find something better to do with our own lives. I couldn't do it anymore. I made up my mind to ditch Julian and this horrible work the moment I got the chance. Yeah, fuck this. The moment you understood what you had become, you knew that you would have to make certain sacrifices in order to maintain your undead existence. The beast needed to be fed, after all. But there were limits, and this was yours. You and Julian didn't even need to say anything. You just threw the water back in the tracker and drove off. You dumped the plastic jugs a few miles up the road. After a long silence, Julian said, "The thing about our masters is that they don't actually have very long memories. All us neonates look sort of alike to them. We'll keep our heads down for a few years. If anyone asks, we'll say we got run off by, I don't know, werewolves or anarchs or something." Anarchs being the vampires who oppose the Camarilla, and they're sort of like vampire libertarians, kinda. It's more complicated than that, but basically they're just not down with the Camarilla. We still don't have any money, you reminded the Assamite. Well, it's going to be a bad fucking couple of years, Pyre. It wasn't actually that bad for Julian, though. A few months later, Julian got his money, though you never learn how. Something to do with venture capital interested in the software he was developing. Anyway, one night he just disappeared, leaving you with the geo-tracker, a stack of CDs with file names written on them in blue Sharpie, and instructions to deliver them to an industrial park in Austin. He looked up his new company, 2100X, which was apparently located in Denver, but you can never find an address or a contact number. And that's been your life ever since. You can move your hands now. You push the top of the freezer open, haul yourself out, and drop silently to the ground. Your hunger is an ache in the back of your gums that leads right up behind your eyes that threatens to turn into a migraine. You can hold off the beast a few more nights like this, but you'll need to feed soon. You wander past dusty and empty shelves and glance outside the gaps in the boarded-up windows. You can't see that strange eagle, but you still smell blood. It's faded, but impossible to ignore. Movement catches your eye, but it's just your reflection in the broken glass of an empty display case. You stare into the eyes of a haunted-looking, eternally young... I would like to play as a non-binary person. That would be cool. You look like shit. Bloodshot eyes, skin pulled back from your nails and teeth, thrift store clothes. Even your satchel looks like someone dragged it down. Hold on, I think my music changed. Yeah, I switched to the Katamari Damacy OST. Okay, let's finish this page first. Even your satchel looks like someone dragged it down a highway. You check the satchel. Your deliveries, the USBs, are still in there. Then you hear a sound outside. A few whispered words in Spanish, weeping. Thank God. Food. Oh no, I haven't been able to see my chat for some reason. Life City, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Fuck. Life City, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Dealing with... Sorry, I use my phone to check my chat, right? Or keep an eye on my chat. But it is not displaying the chat correctly. There we go. That should work now. All right, let's get the music back on track here. And we will use Atmospheric Horror Music Volume 2 by Mello for the next bit here. Yeah, chat box is right. Okay, where were we? Oh, we were just stoked that some desperate people are about to walk into our sphere of influence so we can exploit them. Awesome. Alright. They must have pulled some boards away to get inside, then covered them up so no one from the road spots their flashlight. You're in the middle of the disused convenience store's 3 aisles, invisible in the darkness. At the far side of the store, a short hallway leads to 3 doors. A locked bathroom straight ahead, and then 2 doors, one to the left and one to the right. You guess that the left door leads to a storage room. The mortals are trying to get it open. You count 4 of them. A man and a woman in their mid-20s, an ancient woman, and a frail and gray-haired older man, even smaller than the old woman. The younger woman whispers something in Spanish you don't catch, and then forces the storage room door open with a shriek of metal. Not much here, the young man says, sweeping the storage room with his flashlight. He's traveling heavy. Crowbar, backpack, water bottles, road flares. Those are your road flares. They must have found your Honda. Whoever they are, they're foolish or desperate to bring a woman in her 70s at least, and a guy who isn't built for this kind of work. You're surprised that they're this far north without having already made contact with someone. The younger woman starts jiggling the handle to the bathroom, which is between the storage room and the office. Bored and fearless, the old man hobbles down one of the aisles, and your beast screams behind your eyes. Okay, so what are we going to do with this poor old guy? I can sneak up on him and drain what I need before anyone knows what happened. I just need to take the edge off, he'll be fine. I should be strong enough to grab the old guy without him making a sound. And once my fangs are in, he'll go limp. I go for it just to take a little blood. I'm not going to risk a snatch and grab turning into a massacre or a tired old man's heart suddenly stopping. I stay hidden. There are too many of them, and I'm not taking any risks. I stick to the shadows and watch. I can't risk violating the Masquerade, the undead code of secrecy and silence, by revealing what I am. I stay hidden. So this seems like it's a kind of a desperate situation. So it's like, yeah, we'll just take a little bit. Just a little bit of blood from this little guy. It'll be fine. You need to feed while you're still in control of your actions. You wait until the others wander into the storage room, taking most of the light with them, then glide towards the old man. You tell yourself afterward that you definitely would have had him. Oh, that's a bad sign. A moment before you reach the old guy, you hear the young woman at the bathroom door shriek, and then you hear the crunch of bone. The old man turns, sees you, and howls in terror. Before he can run, what's left of the young woman flies down the aisle, missing you by inches and splattering your face with blood, and knocks the old guy to the ground. He doesn't get up. You absently note that the woman's corpse is already drained of blood. Then you turn and confront the thing in the bathroom. The kindred of Clan Nosferatu are never beautiful, but this one is particularly hideous. Stark naked and so tall he has to stoop to get out of the room, with a flattened skull and huge bat-like ears that make it impossible to imagine what he looked like in life. And then you look into his flat black eyes and realize there is nothing there. So the Nosferatu are, it's like the movie Nosferatu, basically. They're all supposed to be hideous, and that's why, and they can't exactly walk around in public because of that, because they violate the Masquerade basically just by existing. Flashback to April 2007. In the end, we're weaker than they are, Julian says, watching a trio of teenagers across a 7-Eleven parking lot. He sips blood from his extreme gulp, then uses it to gesture at the mortals. I mean, spiritually we're weaker. We're like scurvy victims or something. We can't heal. The beast, you say. I'm not going to ask you what you've done in its grip, Julian says, or what you've done on your own and blame the beast for. But I know the beast will eat you if you're not careful. It'll eat your soul and live behind your eyes. When that happens to one of us, the Camarilla call them whites and hunt them down. And the Assamites, you ask. I don't know, Julian says. I never had the courage to ask. The Nosferatu, the mindless white that had once been a Nosferatu, spots you, but then it turns, and though you cannot see the tough-looking young guy and the old woman, you know that they're cornered in the storage room. As the dead woman's blood runs down its chin, the creature weighs its options. It turns towards the storage room, moving awkwardly because a huge iron chain is fastened around one of its legs. Then something lashes out of the darkness and the white reels back, more in surprise than pain. The young man strikes the creature again with his crowbar. That won't be enough to fend off a monster like this. These people will be dead in moments, and then the fallen Nosferatu will turn its mindless rage on you. Okay, so now it might be a good time to take a look at our stats. Take a look at the character we have here. We got 4 humanity, we got 3 hunger, we got 3 willpower, uninjured, no Masquerade violations. Okay, we're pretty darn strong. We don't have a lot of stamina, but we are very, very dexterous. Let's see. Charisma is 3. We're composed. We're not really charismatic or able to manipulate people. We're pretty smart. Our wits are pretty good, and our resolve is alright. Let's see. No athletics, clandestine, combat, drive, firearms, intimidation. Alright. Blood sorcery, dominate. What's our inventory? Do we have literally anything? Old clothes, broken Casio Illuminator watch, scratched up satchel, maps and guides, hacked Kindle Paperwhite loaded up with blood sorcery grimoires. Okay. So we have nothing. We're kind of strong, but probably not as strong as this thing. Let's see. I grab the chain and haul the white backward to protect the people in the storage room. Strength plus athletics/combat. We have a little bit of combat. There must be another way out. Using my knowledge of how this place should be laid out, I look for a way to get us to safety. Int plus academics, not our strong suit. I shout and rally young man to fight the white off the road flares. That will do more than this monster than a crowbar. Charisma plus leadership. Again, not stuff we're good at. I get the white's attention. They're lured away from the mortals and slip back into the shadows. Dex plus clandestine, that's a possibility. I think both of our things for that are pretty good. I catch the white's eyes and use my mental powers to compel it to leave. I have a feeling if this thing is like a really old Nosferatu, this isn't going to work. So either grab the chain, haul the white backwards to protect the people, and that would obviously expose us to them, or we get the attention of the white and use it to lure it away. What was our clandestine? I think we had points in clandestine. Yes, we had 2 points in clandestine. Okay, so we have the exact same number of dots for both of those options. So it really just comes down to whether or not we want to expose ourselves to the humans or not. I think making sure that they don't know we're here is probably a good idea. It seems like you're going to have to risk your own skin. You throw an empty can at the white's head, then vanish behind a shelf. The monstrous thing howls and rushes you, abandoning the mortals. But you're able to easily vanish in the darkness of the unlit convenience store. You slide around another shelf and spot the younger man creeping forward to retrieve the dazed old guy, almost under the creature's nose. You find an abandoned and long-expired box of Frosted Flakes and throw it, distracting the fallen Nosferatu as the young man scoops up his elder. Then the old woman shouts, "There's a way out!" The white runs for the voice, but gets caught on its chain again. You follow the man back to the storage room. The old woman has raised the door of the loading dock. As the white rips apart the convenience store, you and the survivors race outside. You slam the door shut, and it locks with a satisfying click. It is his place now, the old woman says, watching the shadow of the Nosferatu as it shambles through the abandoned convenience store. She says something else in an indigenous language that you don't understand. Her hands gripped tight around her crucifix. Then she grabs the young man's shoulder before he goes back for the dead woman. His shoulder is hurt, and he has a cut on his scalp. The crucifix doesn't move you, but you get away from the blood. The old guy moans, and the two of them help him stand on his own. You have 1,000 questions and one problem. Where did the Nosferatu come from? Who chained it up? Was it imprisoned because it had become a white, or did it lose its mind during its imprisonment? And what are you going to do with these people who just saw a blood-stained, bat-eared monster kill a woman? So here's a big sort of open-ended question that we have to deal with. I can't leave witnesses. I kill them and feed. I need their blood and it's bad to loose ends. I drain all three. I need to feed before the beast consumes me. I drink from the old man. That will make persuading them not to talk harder, but I have to feed. These are religious folks. I misdirect them into believing that they faced a demon. I'm pretty sure demons are real, which is a manipulation and subterfuge. We're not great at manipulation, but we do have some subterfuge. I intimidate them into silence, promising them they'll die if they speak a word of this to anyone. Manipulation plus intimidation. I appeal to their higher principles. I save their lives. Somewhat true, and they owe me. They should remain silent. Charisma plus persuasion. I use my mental powers and compel them to forget what happened. Dominate. I just let them go. We're probably not just going to let them go. Let's see. If we're not gonna feed right now, this is probably the best option. Let's try to continue to, let's try to misdirect these people. That's the funny thing about the Masquerade. 3/4 of the world already believes in ghosts, angels, demons, Ouija boards, crystal healing, and the Eucharist. Probably half of those things are real too. You've seen some weird shit. The Camarilla doesn't care about what people believe. They fear people learning enough to act. So it's time to lie. You spin a load of bullshit about angels and demons, deflecting any inquiries that might lead the survivors into thinking about the living dead. Though the old folks are quiet, the young man is clever and challenges you on several points. It's tiring work. You don't spend extended periods of time talking to mortals except to work or feed. But it seems like you finally convince them that while they experience something supernatural, it conforms to their own religious expectations. After a few more minutes, the survivors grab their gear and head north. Alright, so we successfully kept them from believing that they faced a vampire, so that's good. You check your iPhone. It's broken. You take out the SIM card and destroy it, then destroy the spares you carry. You wear a watch because sunrise is never far from your mind, and yes, that's broken too. You check your satchel, but the USBs are all there, all safe. Your hunger is still a dull ache in your teeth, but you're in control, for now. You can hear the white in the empty convenience store, snuffling and moaning. You walk back to where you left your car, but it's gone except for a single hubcap. You check your reflection. There's blood on your hands and face and clumps of gore in your hair. And your shirt and jeans are in tatters. You have nothing to wash with, but you rub sand all over yourself to try to get as much of the blood off as you can. You look like something that just crawled out of the earth for revenge, and you can't show yourself anywhere civilized like this. Headlights appear on the highway, and you fade back into the scrub. Instinctively, you check the satchel one more time, but everything is there. Everything that just happened was a distraction, someone else's problem. You can reach the outskirts of Tucson before dawn, and from there make your way to the new Prince's Court. Just deliver these USBs, and you'll make enough money for a new car. You'll be able to keep doing this, night after night. You start walking. Alright, that's chapter 2. Take a quick break for water. Reading a lot of stuff at once is hard. I'm not used to talking this much, kind of all at once. Okay, Chapter 3, The Eagle Prince. Tucson, Arizona, night of November 2nd. Sunrise, 6:42 a.m. Your feet hurt. You already passed the place you were supposed to stay yesterday, but it's just an empty garage. There's nothing there for you. An hour before dawn, you reach the chain-link fences and industrial parks that mark the outskirts of Tucson. You can see cheap stucco houses up ahead, but the burbs are no place for a vampire. Without a cell phone or money, and with your clothes too trashy for polite company, you revert to skills you honed in the desperate years after the fall of the pyramid. When you find an abandoned semi-trailer in a factory parking lot, you note that the high walls should keep worst of the heat off. You check it for holes in the ceiling. Finding none, you crawl inside. You spend the day with your brain screaming in terror and your body paralyzed as trucks and factory machines move all around you. Someone actually moves the trailer, which you're sure hasn't been moved in years. They drag it into the sun, so you spend the day boiling in a metal box under Arizona's daytime heat. The moment the sun sets, you throw open the door and, even though people are still working, flee into the night. All that matters is the USBs. Are the USBs still okay? They're in the satchel and they look fine. That means you still have a fistful of cash waiting for you at the end of this road. Your only concern is that your satchel is physically falling apart. You move the USBs to an interior pocket and get walking. Tucson, Arizona, night of November 3rd, sunrise, 6:29 a.m. You never wanted to come back to Tucson. It's been a black spot on your personal map for years, but here you are. You had to avoid the good neighborhoods, the big stucco houses on their little plots of land, with their raked-out front yards and blue recycling bins. For a few minutes, a black and white Mustang with a thin blue line Punisher decal on the hood creeps behind you in first gear. You can't tell if it's an actual police car or some kind of patriot group, but you cut through a park where they can't follow. There's a public bathroom there where you might be able to clean up a little. The mirror is cracked and someone's shit in the urinal, but the water works. You spend a few minutes scraping trash off, then look around for either threats or opportunities. Your hunger is a gnawing distraction in the back of your mind, but you can still think, and you find yourself thinking, where are all the junkies? It's not like this is a nice park. You lurk in the shadows for a few minutes just to remember what it's like, but you don't see anyone. That's when you realize where you are. This abandoned building was the lair of Lampago, a thing of legend that was probably one of the kindred, though no one knows for sure. A shape-shifting monstrosity destroyed by hunters as the Second Inquisition rose to power and began their dreadful crusade against all vampires. A lesson in keeping your head down and not bucking the traditions, if there ever was one. She might have been a monster, but there aren't many creatures left like her. Just obedient little kindred without imagination. I wish I could have seen her. A cannibal corpse wallowing in a sewer. Vampires are worth more than that. They were right to destroy her. I'm not sure which one. I don't think it would have been right. I don't think we would think that they were right to destroy her. And we're not really much one for keeping to the traditions either. So I think this middle one is maybe what we go with. Wish you could have seen her. Uh-oh. We got a bot. Shit. Ban. Yep. There we go. Get out of here. Oh, my cat is coming to visit. Hey, Ziggy. Hey, buddy. The age of wonder is always passing, isn't it? You are immortal. Must you spend eternity in stuffy little rooms trading bone malts with stuffed corpses? Which remind you, the Elysium awaits. Elysium is one of the defining ideas of the Camarilla. It is a neutral meeting ground where violence and the use of vampire powers are forbidden. In many Elysiums, kindred are allowed to exist as they are, not as the Masquerade demands they be. The Tucson Elysium is located on the roof of a nightclub called the Viper. You can hear the pounding industrial music from the parking lot, but you're not here for the party. You've been outside the Viper before, but never in and never up. You scan the rooftop and wonder whether to approach first or try to hunt. It's bad form to arrive in an Elysium hungry, but hunting nearby is often forbidden, since it attracts notice. An eagle settles on a fire escape. You remember the way that eagle looked at you a few nights ago, and you suspect it's the way in. You follow it up the fire escape, trying to ignore the hunger that has you gnawing on your lip. You don't know what shadow art this place employs, but you reach the top step and the empty-looking rooftop of the Viper disappears, replaced by a sprawling patio covered in cacti and desert shrubs. Footpaths lead through the secret garden, and small stone bridges cross narrow rivulets of cold flowing water. From here, the lights of Tucson are invisible, and the night sky is the way it is deep in the desert. Shades of purple and blue and black, with the Milky Way brighter than you've ever seen it. It's quiet up here, but the music from the nightclub below vibrates through the trashed soles of your boots as you cross the flagstones. Your fellow kindred watch you with disgust as your boots leave a crumbly trail of black dirt, but you size them up quickly and dismiss them just as quickly. They're weak camarilla fledglings and neonates, ghouls, dead-eyed mortal servitors, and blood dolls. You scan the crowd for ghouls, living humans fed on vampire blood. They gain immortality and a little power in exchange for slavish devotion. They are a vampire's most trusted servant, though they can grow erratic over the years. You think you spot a few. Then you look around for someone important. The eagle flies past you and lands beside a young-looking man in a linen suit with turquoise jewelry. He's conversing in worried tones with the Nosferatu, a particularly hideous example of the clan whose face is a death's head of gray-black muscles, as if her skin had been peeled away. Her monstrous face contrasts with her striking and powerful physique. Your thirst for blood means you are now in a hunger frenzy and cannot think clearly unless you try to feed or focus your willpower. Oh, God. Should have eaten those people, I guess. I focus my willpower. If we're meeting with the prince, we gotta make a good first impression. That man with the jewelry is either the prince or one of his agents. I deliver the USBs and get my damn money. I still have my dignity. I'm not going to cross the Elysium until I found a way to clean myself up. I examine my fellow kindred. I've never been to the Tucson Elysium, and I want to know what sort of monsters, liars, and sons of bitches I'm up against. Blood. I need blood. So we're probably only going to be able to, like, we only have, like, 3 willpower. And we don't want to run out of willpower, because bad stuff happens when you do that. So I think we're gonna deliver the USBs, get the money, and get the fuck out as quickly as possible. Oh, and here's an illustration. Look at this guy. Got some jewelry going on. He's got his eagle, looking sick as hell. The man in the turquoise jewelry watches your approach with a slight smile. He's seated comfortably in a wicker chair next to a small zinc table with an old laptop, a white hat, and a heap of typed and handwritten correspondence. The Nosferatu standing beside him only scowls. Welcome to Tucson, he says. His accent is foreign, from somewhere in Europe, despite the Native American jewelry and the wide-brimmed hat in front of him. I am Prince Leto. This is Dove. And you are Pyre, he says. The courier. It looks like you had a difficult journey. A clump of mud falls out of your hair and splats onto the flagstones. Give us the data, usurper, the Nosferatu snaps. Dove is wearing a silkscreen jacket, kicked around Converse All-Stars in a snapback with a local minor league baseball team on it. Driving gloves are tucked into her pocket. Another courier? Money first, sewer rat. I'm not here to pick a fight. I toss her the first USB. Dove sounds sort of like the Camarilla lapdog needs to get yanked around. So, Dove, do you have a dove like the sky has an eagle? Does everyone get a bird? I kind of want to say that. Just like, do y'all get a bird? Can I get a bird? There's Dove. She looks dope. She's got a cool skull face. Fangs. Nosferatu glares down at you. But the prince, seated beside her, only laughs, his tone warm and friendly. Dove has little interest in the creatures of the night. Her dark gifts maintain this Elysium, he says. But she is most useful for what she knows. And right now she wants to know what those USBs hold. I imagine you do too. You've yanked her around enough, so you get set the USBs on Prince Leto's table. Thank you, Pyre, he says. Leto's laptop is an old Asus, probably intended to read information once before it's destroyed. When the prince inserts the USB, a folder appears with a video and a few text files. Feel free to watch, Pyre, Leto says. He checks his Vacheron Constantine. It's 1:49 a.m. That's some sort of watch, it must be. Then he looks east. He stares for a long time as if with longing, then shakes his head. I don't think this interests you directly, but I try not to keep secrets here in Tucson. A warm, friendly smile, and eyes that watch you like a, where did that bird go? The video opens awkwardly, with a hand holding webcam. You see a man's face, and then you see the ritual chamber. Look at this dude. Fucking sweater vest and glasses, professor ass, with a goddamn ritual knife. Oh, man. Okay. You recognize Jasper, your fellow Tremere, from your sire's descriptions, though you've never met him. He's white and apple-cheeked with a short gray beard, portly in a way vampires rarely are, like an avuncular college professor. He's wearing a Fair Isle sweater vest and pressed slacks, and holding a silver knife with one hand as he tries to adjust the webcam with the other. That's Jasper Knowles, Tremere Magus, Leto says conversationally. Do you know him? Never seen him before in my life. I think my sire met him a few times. My job is making deliveries. Prince Leto, I don't get involved. Let's see. We've never seen him before in our lives. That's technically true. Leto watches you closely as you answer, tongue against his teeth, concentrating. He thinks you know something, but you've never seen this Tremere. Dove gasps. Knowles has stepped away from the webcam, revealing a dingy cinder-block room with faded orange stripes on the walls, and Nosferatu chained to an iron spike in the floor. That Nosferatu almost killed you the other night. Sire, Dove whispers. Prince Leto's illusion of good cheer falters for a moment. Both he and the eagle glare at Dove. You're here so he can get a read on you, not so his underling can give you information. So what I gather there is that Nosferatu maybe is the one who sired Dove, I guess? I don't know. This experiment has gone on for as long as it can, Knowles says in the video. Science sometimes ends in failure, my dear, and so does our version of it. No intelligence remains in the specimen, and it has become increasingly dangerous and aggressive. Once it's destroyed, I'll send what's left to you. I'm also going to wrap up my daytime business. I know that we are still allowed to communicate via email as, flesh and blood citizens, but my mortal identity is almost 80 years old, and soon people will wonder. Something off-screen draws Knowles' attention. He turns the knife, ready to insert it into his wrist. You know enough blood sorcery to recognize that he's planning to attack. Unfortunately for Knowles, he's looking the wrong way. As he stares past the webcam, a figure detaches itself from the shadows of the wall, walks almost casually up to the chained-up Nosferatu, and removes its shackles. The rest of the video is chaos. The white hurls itself at Knowles. The Tremere screams and stumbles into the webcam, which falls. Sorcerous fire blackens the ceiling. Dirty fists rise and fall again and again. Unlike most Tremere, Knowles has mastered the vampiric art of inhuman resilience, but that only makes his destruction longer and more horrible. Then the video suddenly ends. It sounds like Jasper Knowles got what was coming to him. That poor man, both of them. The tradition exists to stop horrors like that from happening. What was the figure that freed the Nosferatu? Why couldn't I see it clearly? It seems like Jasper Knowles got what was coming to him, based on what we're seeing here. You've never seen Knowles before, Leto says. He sounds frustrated. Aren't you a warlock? I'm a neonate, you remind Prince Leto. I just work here, man. I don't know shit. The once invincible pyramid of Clan Tremere is now fractured, but you're still at the bottom of what's left. You don't get to talk to important people. All this, and then there's the mess with Nvidia, Leto mutters under his breath. Well, that's for later. Dove, go back. Who was that shadow? You watch it again, but the shadow is just a blur of formless motion. An impressive disguise, Leto says thoughtfully, freeze framing on the blur. The assassin doesn't even move fast at first. There's just nothing there but a smear. Almost as impressive as this rooftop. And what happened to the Nosferatu? Did he escape? He rolls the video back and forth, trying to get a better view of the white. Then he seems to remember you. He reaches into a bag at his feet and hands you a manila envelope, then goes back to scrolling around. $1,000 in 20s. Your job is done. You know the answer to Leto's question, of course. The Eagle Prince's gaze wanders again. He looks east over the skyline of Tucson. Let's see. I can share my info about the encounter with the white. I think we'll share it here, based on the idea that we don't want it just running around hurting people. That's probably a good thing to do. You described your narrow escape from the mindless Nosferatu. I'm impressed you're still alive, little neonate, Leto says. The Nosferatu you fought was old and powerful in his time. the child of Raremus himself. Then his tone hardens and slices through the air like a razor. Dove, your sire is now your responsibility. Find and destroy him. You have 7 nights. Watching the video seemed to have taken all the fight out of the Nosferatu. She just nods. You have too many questions. The most obvious one is, why did Prince Leto let you watch the video? Princes are secretive and paranoid creatures, and even in these nights, when the true elders have sunken into torpor or fled to the old world, even a young prince like Leto has survived centuries of betrayal and revolution. Princes don't tolerate risk. That means either Leto or his situation here are unstable, or worse, he already knows you and has accounted for you. Pyre, I have more work for you, the Prince of Tucson says. You will remain here tonight. My man Alexander will provide you with shelter, sustenance, and suitable clothing. And hose you down, obviously. I apologize if he treats you like a horse, but he misses horses. That's understandable. Alexander is a small and sallow man. He wears an oversized gray suit like a refugee from some 20th century war. He does not smile, which is for the best, since you see that his teeth are gray. Well, that's kind of mean. Follow me, Alexander says. His accent is thick and his breath is acidic like bile. An old ghoul. Kindred grows strange and cold as they age, but old blood slaves are stranger still, and sometimes more dangerous. With that settled, Alexander says, you should drink. He taps a code into a locked case and takes out a small flute of blood. The Eagle Prince apologizes for this crude repast, but he does not trust new guests around his herd when they are so hungry, and you must understand that he cannot trust every new arrival. You drain the glass and feel the blood sparkle through your veins. Room temperature blood, even when treated not to spoil, lacks savor and resonance. You wonder if having to drink this stuff is a punishment or a test. When you're done, you're still hungry. Okay, I need to adjust the music again. 1 second. Atmospheric Horror was pretty good. First one. Okay, back to it. After a shower, the servant leads you back to a glass observation room above the club's main dance floor, where a selection of clothing is waiting, and you realize that Prince Leto is giving you gifts. That isn't good. You know what happens if you end up in debt to a prince. Please, Alexander says, you must dress for the Elysium. The Eagle Prince insists. You glance at the clothes on display. Leto isn't exactly draping you in Armani, at least. You see a mix of work clothes and streetwear, but nothing too upmarket. You don't see any bloodstains either. So let's get a look at what we're going to have here. A jumpsuit or something out of a Goodwill donation bag. Tough and functional for the road. What if I need to go clubbing? Professional for my job. Official members only jacket, driving gloves. Black, formal, and elegant. Let's see. I think we either do the courier's outfit or the tough and functional here. Or the jumpsuit. Honestly, the jumpsuit is kind of appealing. I think black leather jacket and engineer boots sounds pretty sick. You flip through the options until you find a black leather jacket with just enough wear that you don't look like a poser. The engineer boots are big, heavy, and probably out of fashion, but you don't care. You even have military surplus duffel bag for your courier work. Black jeans and a pair of t-shirts in black, white, gray, and red complete the ensemble. You also find a... what? I've been invited to play Minecraft by my brother-in-law. I'm unfortunately going to have to decline. Okay, black jeans, t-shirt. You also find a scratched-up Panerai Luminor, a fake obviously, and a wide cuff band of black leather. That I assume that's a watch. You ascend metal stairs that thump with the base of the EDM below, back up to the rooftop Elysium. Leto's eagle watches you. A gangrel prince is unusual, even in these nights. You wonder where Leto came from, and you wonder what he wants with you. He is still watching the video and reviewing whatever information they got from the other USBs. Dove is scanning the parking lot below. You will be remaining with us for some time, Alexander says. You understand what this means, yes? Of course you understand what will happen if you try to flee. You look toward that parking lot, too. You need a car. We are very friendly people in Tucson, Alexander says, finally smiling. It's an awful sight. Little gray rat teeth, skin that crinkles like paper. Not like other cities you may know. Speak to people about what you need. Dove was like you once. She drove. Need a car? She has cars. Her retainer, Carlos, is the one listening to the music from below. He is a police officer. He has, rooms, stashes. Of the shit. Is that what is said? He keeps evidence rooms with the good shit. Maybe you need that sort of man. He is proud and cruel, though. Do not let him bait you. Carlos spots you, and Alexander looking at him, and gives you the finger. And if you need, blood, Alexander says, I was a doctor in my youth. When I was young, I said to my teachers, this bleeding, it does not work. It does not make the patients better. Isn't that funny, knowing what I know now? Ah, a little joke. But I have an important job. When kindred feed and kill and endanger the Masquerade, I tell Prince Leto. I hate telling him those things. I would prefer if kindred came to me for advice. I will give you this advice now. Do not hunt near the viper. It is not permitted, and of course, do not use your gifts here. The sudden movement of blood, it upsets Dove. Let's see, I talked to Leto. Why is not Leonard in charge? Leto is cute. I can hit on him. I talked to Leto. I don't trust him, but if he has work, I need money. How's our hunger doing here? Our hunger is still 3. It's still bad. Let's see. And our willpower is not good. So we do need blood more than anything else. Let's see. Let's hit up Alexander for blood. Since you have presented yourself to the prince, Alexander says, you may hunt. Not here. The viper is Prince Leto's. But I can provide you with good quiet places. I provide this service, not for your sake, but so you do not embarrass our prince. But this is only for tonight, understand. There have been accidents in Tucson, and the prince will not trust you to wander freely night after night. He rattles off a long list of nightclubs, bars, and halfway homes. His knowledge is encyclopedic, precise, and up-to-date, and his warnings are invaluable. There's some kind of dispute in the parking lot below. 3 women yelling at a guy. Dove gestures, and 2 heavies head downstairs to sort it out. Okay. Well, since we know about where to feed, let's go ahead and talk to Leto about jobs. When you approach, Prince Leto closes his laptop and rises cordially. It's a truism amongst the kindred that all elders are monsters, but at least this one can hide it. He's unexpectedly tall, despite his youthful features. You can picture him on a war horse, plowing through ranks of helpless peasant infantry. It is dangerous to interact with any elder, but you sense an opportunity here. You make small talk for a few minutes, describing a few recent deliveries once it's clear that Prince Leto knows who you and your sire are. It's strange to live again in a time of ignorance, Leto says. When I was new dead, the Commonwealth was still a land of darkness and superstitious. I have watched the lights turn on all over the world, and now I am seeing them turn off again. Of course, I can adapt to that, but these young ones who grew up with miracles at their fingers, they're going blind. He scratches the head of his eagle. Do you think you will go blind, Pyre? If you can still see in this murk, I may have work for you. 2 more kindred arrive from the dance floor, skin slick from other people's sweat, cradling their dazed-looking blood dolls. Prince Leto narrows his eyes at this vulgar display, but says nothing. So what he's talking about, sort of the backdrop to this whole thing, is it's called literally a second Inquisition. Vampire hunters are coming back in a big way and systematically targeting vampires, using like basically using like information from their phones and things like that, which is why our character is important as a courier. Let's see. Let's get a car from Dove. That sounds good. So the whole fucking Cadillac is on fire, and I'm kicking and kicking, trying to get the window to break, Dove says. Right, because you're trying to follow the story, and it isn't easy. Because I'm still handcuffed to the guy who was pretending to be a werewolf, right? And I finally kick through the window, rip half the dead fake werewolf's arm to get free. I'm out of my fucking mind now with all the fire, and I finally crawl out of the car. And get clear before it. Do they blow up? Escalades? I don't know, probably not, Dove says. But anyway, I'm finally clear, so I run across the parking lot laughing because I'm just thrilled not to have met final death, chained up to that guy. And I barely have time to look up before Leteau comes screaming around the corner in a Ford Bronco with the lights off and runs me over. I was in the wrong Cadillac the whole time. No. 2 black Cadillac Escalades in a parking lot of the Marriott. How was I supposed to know which one? Anyway, that's why I don't get to drive anymore. That's why Leteau wants assholes like you driving. Driving what, you ask? Because I need a car. Dove shakes her ugly head. I'll get you something. Give me a few hours to work on it, and I'll send someone to find you. Whatever was happening in the parking lot below has sorted itself out. The heavies are back upstairs laughing. You memorize their names and faces in case they're trouble later, then circle the Elysium for a few minutes getting a feel for the place. You can't believe you're back in Tucson. You wonder if anyone recognizes you. Beyond the rooftop, the city lights appear dim and washed out, as if seen through a black veil. Red brake lights from the highway look like a sluggish trail of blood. Just call her, that's Dove, speaking in hushed but anxious tones to Prince Leteau. You can't quite hear what the rest of the conversation, but then the prince's genial smile vanishes. Dove withers at whatever he says next. Then the eagle swings its golden eyes back toward you. Ah, Pyre, Prince Leteau says. I told you I would have work for you. I need to send some emails, and that is not as easy as it once was. Come here. You were still... Oh, okay, they're going to explain what I was trying to explain earlier. You were still a fledgling when the Second Inquisition burned through the centers of Camarilla power. Places like the Vienna Chantry, your clan's arcane fortress. You weren't important enough to draw the Second Inquisition's attention, the SI's attention. They've been quiet for years, quiet enough that some kindred are starting to use phones and email to conduct their night work again, cutting into your business. But you know they're fools. The SI was never beaten. The Inquisition is just collecting information now, waiting for an opportunity to strike again. Prince Leteau does not want to give them the opportunity. You come highly recommended, he says, and I hate to see a proud member of Clan Tremere brought low by circumstances. I need you to run letters to a few cities near Tucson. Don't worry, nothing is more than a single night's trip. See, how much? Why not use your magic bird? I'm not being sarcastic. I sort of want a magic bird. I need a ride. Well, since you're so charming, I can get by on my own. Thanks. Let's ask him how much. I want to get paid. Ah, an interesting question, Prince Leteau says. No, it's not, Leteau, Dove says. Stop pretending you're older than money and pay the person. Thank you, Dove. The Eagle Prince is back to his usual affable self. He laughs, his voice musical, then says, $1,000 for the first delivery. More later, based on your performance and how much you've impressed my court. In addition, my man Alexander will provide you with vessels, and you may hunt freely in any of the other cities you visit while making your runs. Let's see. I have to work for the Camarilla to stay alive. He's my best chance. I don't trust you. Don't betray me. I'll do your jobs, but there are limits. Let's see. Camarilla's the best chance. This first one's fine, because like I don't think we like the Camarilla, but if we have to work with him to stay alive, like he might be the best that we can do. What's the job? Prince Leteau hands you a printout marked with 3 locations and 3 faces. You recognize one face instantly. It's your sire, Invidia Call. Your eyes go to the garnet ring on her finger. 3 people need to know about the final death of Jasper Knowles and the reduction of Rare Mouse's child to the state of white. He points to each face in turn. Your sire worked closely with Jasper after she escaped to New York. She drifted away from him for reasons I don't understand, but she still needs to be informed of his destruction. She also needs to know that, without Jasper Knowles' considerable private wealth funding her, she can no longer sustain her research and she must return to Tucson. Should we tell them that she'll go crazy when she finds out? Dove asks the prince. I'm sure her child is more familiar than any of us with Dr. Call's mercurial temperament, Prince Leto says. Nonetheless, I will offer my advice. He loves doing that, Dove says. Pyre, I encourage you to deliver my letter and get out. You won't like your sire's reaction when she realizes she's broke. Okay. Why can't you keep her funded? Sending me out to be destroyed is poor form. If she's making a hash of the Masquerade, is that the problem? I'll deliver your message. Let's see. We don't need to tell the prince that we're interested in blood magic. Ask her if she's breaking the Masquerade. Probably not, Dove says, shrugging her heavy shoulders, but bring a clipboard. If she's breaking the rules, let us know. Leto points to the next face. Paternoster is one of the rabble, a Bruja. He lurks in St. Basil's Hospital in Phoenix, looking after the lost lambs of our flock. Other rabble, the clanless, thin bloods, the mad ones, maybe even Gangrel. Leto chuckles at his own wit. I don't get it. But actually he keeps them in line, though they are dangerously lax. In fact, I would like you to encourage a bit more tidiness from the kindred at St. Basil's. No open feeding, no drug running, no unauthorized embraces, that sort of thing. This is not a formal mission, you understand? But if you can make our dissatisfaction known, I would appreciate it. But more important, with Knowles gone, the hospital will be up for renovation. Those renovations will compromise St. Basil's usefulness as a haven. I'll write instructions for what Paternoster needs to do. Let's see, if we're going to be like clan racists, we're here to deliver the message, we're not going to yell at somebody, get involved in that whole thing, happy to deliver a message, no problem. Of course I can do that. Sound friendly to impress the prince, but I'm not running errands for the Camarillo without getting paid. Yeah, second one seems fine. Eager little usurper, aren't they, Dove says. Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Leto glances at a second in command, then continues. Finally, the Ventru Elin Olive Crona is at a migrant camp in Sierra Blanca, Texas, Prince Leto says. You may remember her from that excitement a few years ago. Leto was referring to the final death of the old Prince of Tucson, a powerful blue blood manipulated into launching a crusade of purification against his clan's old rivals, including the rabble. She has since returned to the Camarillo's good graces since she provides much of the Southwest with blood. But her operation exists atop a mortal substructure that is profoundly politically unstable. Jasper Knowles' destruction will further destabilize that situation, and she needs to know how. Feeding on migrants sounds horrific. That is pretty horrific. A steady source of blood down at that camp sounds like easy living. I can get used to that. Nope. Oh no, Elin Olive Crona? Is she going to drag me into Camarillo politics? I don't want that. A camp like Camp Scheffler is good for the long-term stability and survival of vampires. I'm interested in seeing it. Feeding on migrants sounds horrific. Prince Leto continues, apparently untroubled by where his blood comes from. Anyway, 3 deliveries, $1,000 each, and you're welcome to hunt in Tucson in every city you visit for a year after finishing your final delivery, Leto says. Though you will have to abide by my rules for neonates here in Tucson. My man Alexander will explain once we're finished here. I also give you permission to own property and to create no more than 1 ghoul, though you may not embrace new kindred. And take this for emergencies, and only for emergencies. He hands you a prepaid flip phone and a baggie full of SIM cards. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must compose the letters you are to deliver. The prince moves to a writing desk under a ramada, leaving the pile of electronic devices and written correspondence, and gets to work composing his messages. You sit down nearby to disable the phone's GPS and get rid of everything that could be used to track you, leaving the device even more stripped down than it began. You glance around the rooftop Elysium, and your first thought is, no food. Your hunger is starting to distract you. Later tonight, you'll need to hunt. Let's see, I need more money in hand right now. Nature of Elysium is deception. I lie, flatter, misrepresent myself. This whole situation with Jasper Knowles and the way it worries me. I want information. Too hungry to risk socializing. I hang around and keep my mouth shut until I can leave. Where are we at? What's our inventory? We don't have a lot of money, if I remember from what we saw earlier. We have $1,000, basically. It's like, hey, if you can give me some more money, I would appreciate it. But I don't think we have enough to really try that. Got one manipulation, no persuasion. Let's see. We're gonna take a look. Try to take a look at the correspondence here. You can't linger with so many eyes on you, and you dare not touch Prince Lato's papers. Many old-world kindred, you've learned, regard written correspondence as almost sacred, and you don't want to find out what infuriates this prince. Still, what did Knowles do? Torture the scab until he went mad? Conduct some kind of experiment or ritual? The possibilities are endless and chilling. As you circle the zinc-topped table beside Prince Lato's vacated wicker chair, you let your fingers rifle the top few sheets, and something catches your eye. Hard copies of emails Jasper Knowles sent to various local companies. Sorry, my cat's on my desk. Okay. The threat of the Second Inquisition means the kindred do not send emails about their night work, but they still are allowed identities as flesh and blood citizens, as Jasper Knowles had said on the video. And citizens need email. In his living guise, Knowles inherited his grandfather's construction business. In other words, you bet he pretended to die and came back as his own grandson. Skimming the list of names, you see corporate suppliers, a few federal contracts, 2100X, the tech company Julian Sim founded in Denver. So our old buddy Julian is somehow mixed up in all this as well. You didn't even know 2100X was still around. You've checked for a web presence and found nothing, but here's an email, a timestamp last month, and a brief and mundane-seeming message. No word from Prester. It's mostly for renovation of temporary holding facilities along the border. Hey, Dove says. Hey, Pyre, could you do me a favor and get the fuck away from our shit? You make a hasty retreat with the information you've gained. Short water break. Okay. The kindred here keep disappearing downstairs, but you're sure you're not allowed to feed in the Elysium. Your palms itch. You can't stay here. You need to see what this city has to offer. As if sensing your mood, Alexander returns, his approach heralded by his reeking breath. I have spoken with the prince, and he has given you permission to feed in his city tonight, he says. After that, you must speak to me about arrangements. Tucson can be a difficult city, and you do not yet have a ride. For clubs, stay away from the country and western places. We all love what is it called? A jamboree, right, here in America? But they are claimed by others. And do not feed from the sleeping. The Ventru of Prince Lato's court must feed that way, and do not want competition. Otherwise, your needs can be met just north of here. There are clubs and alleys, drunks and prostitutes, even veterinary clinics and hospitals. You will be watched, of course. Do not dishonor the prince. You lean over the edge of the railing looking down at Tucson. For years you've taken blood wherever you could, usually as payment for a job. But most vampires your age hunt, and most of them specialize. Before you became a courier, you too had a specialty. You think back to those years with Nvidia Call, before you drove the night roads to perpetuate your existence. You try to remember the skills you developed to feed. So you can either just basically jump homeless people, feed on people during sex, feed on animals, feed on blood bags, feed on the sleeping, and from people who are just like vampire chasers, essentially. So I think we're a bagger. We do blood bags. Your sire once had a vague plan of breeding xeno-sheep with human genetic material, so their blood would be more palatable to vampires. Nothing ever came of it, but that idea gave you an idea of how to survive as an independent vampire. And when you found yourself on your own, you were ready. But it's not as easy as it used to be. It was never pleasant. Bagged blood is flavorless, but now most of your old databases are compromised, and security around most plasma centers is increasingly tight. Still, you have a few sources left, including a database buried in a ton of irrelevant medical data. No intelligence agency ever has enough staff, and if you're unimportant, you can hide in the noise. You've memorized all the key passwords, so you just type them into your new phone and search the relevant Google Doc. Past reams and reams of irrelevant pharmaceutical information is the address of your target and how to get in. So when it says it's flavorless, it basically... You know what? I'm not going to fucking explain it. There's a reason why. In the lore. This place uses a key code. Most are smarter now. You call them up, sound like you work there, and ask for the key code. In you go. The private donation center is quiet at night. You pad to the freezers and take what you need. For the past few years, this has gotten harder every time you've done it, but this time is easy. Too easy? You can't think about that now. You drink deep. Bagged blood tastes like nothing, and you sometimes feel less healthy than other vampires, subsisting on this stuff so often. Doing this used to be safer and smarter than running meth heads down in an alley, or skulking around goth clubs trying to pick up groupies. But now access is locked down and almost impossible. Surviving as a bagger is still possible, but it won't be easy. It won't always be that easy, you think as you sit on a park bench, sluggishly moving your soul and blood around your body. New vampires can always have fun for the first few nights, but then other kindred learn about your tricks, or hunters notice statistical anomalies, or the herd itself instinctively reacts to the invisible predator in their midst. But tonight you feel good. A Lotus Esprit Turbo in powder blue rolls up to the curb, blaring synthwave loud enough to scare the crows. The driver flings a parcel your way. When you pick it up, he peels out. The parcel contains a card for a pawn shop, written on the back, Cars. There's also an extended stay ticket for a parking garage with a 4-digit key code written on the back. So it looks like you have a place to park. Even after midnight, it feels dangerous to run across a wide, palm tree-lined boulevard that leads to your destination. You need a car. You're itching like earlier when you needed blood, but now the need is to move fast, to stop fighting the shape of the city and start flowing through it the way it wants you to. By the end of tonight, you either need to buy a car or learn how to turn into a bat because Tucson is no place for pedestrians. Covenant Pawn Shop is wedged between an auto repair shop and a nail salon, across from a Title Max. Signs read, "Cash for guns, we buy gold," and closed. You step into the sad, dusty spiritual void of the pawn shop. You pass PS4 games, bedazzled purses, a glass case full of rings, regalo perfecto, and enough rifles to conquer Belgium. The first thing you do is stock up on a few necessities for your trade. A few duffel bags and rucksacks, a mini crowbar, a small folding knife, a folding shovel, a hacksaw, some lockpicks, matches, cord, electrician's tape, a flashlight, a blood and tissue kit with extra syringes, spare USBs, and a portable toolkit. You stop at the knives because you recognize the silver knife in one display case. Jasper Knowles was holding it before he was killed, or maybe it's just a knockoff or some movie prop or something, but you can't be sure. But that's weird. This lady looks fucking cool. Behind the display case with the knives is a pretty young woman with choppy blonde hair and Victorian replica railway glasses. She's peered over those sunglasses to watch you like a hawk since you pushed past the closed side and walked in. You know that reaction. She recognizes the predator but doesn't know exactly what kind. So this place is only tangentially connected to the Tucson Camarilla. It and she are independent and kept that way because they're useful. When you get closer, the young woman leans close, studying your leather jacket. Her bare arms are covered in H.R. Giger tattoos, sinuous biomechanical figures in shades of black, gray, and green. Finally, she says, "Miguel sent you." It's not quite a question and not quite a statement, and you have no idea who Miguel is. Maybe one of Dove's servitors. You did ask the prince's second-in-command, Dove, about getting something to drive. Whatever, you nod. "Call me Elena, let's get you set up." She throws a red leather jacket on over her tattoos. She makes sure you can see the Glock in the shoulder holster. The cars are waiting out back. A rusted chain link fence divides Covenant Pawn Shop's parking lot from a row of rusted Quonset huts. The huts and the slightly taller buildings on either side serve to hide a full parking lot of parked cars that probably shouldn't be here. "Miguel says you need wheels," Elena says. She steps into the shadows and starts messing around on her phone, but she keeps her eyes on you above the railway glasses. "These cars are shit. Miguel either hates your guts or doesn't care if your mission for Prince Leteau excuse me. Miguel either hates your guts or doesn't care if your mission for Prince Leto succeeds or fails. You instantly dismiss the vans, economy cars, and anything covered in rust or would require more cash to repair than buy. That leaves you with 4 mediocre specimens: a Mitsubishi 3000 GT with too many aftermarket mods, a little Honda S2000 with electrical problems, an ancient but still rolling BMW 3 Series, and an ugly but functional Nissan Frontier. Tonight only, Elena says, anything with 4 wheels is 20% off. Miguel must like you, or hate me. The stuff inside is full price. She props the back door open. Well, let's start off. I want to take a look at the BMW 3, because apparently its main issue is just that it's old. With this car, you can party like it's 1985 because you're pretty sure it was built in 1985. The exterior is gunmetal gray, and inside the leather is dry and cracked like it's suffering from some kind of foot disease. It smells like tobacco, the AC doesn't work, and the back seats are torn and patched with duct tape. But the bones of the car are excellent. The engine is clean, and it's as fast as the 2 sports cars, almost maneuverable as a modern vehicle, and more importantly, it's tough as nails. This thing survived Reaganomics and Glasnost. It can survive whatever you crash it into. You take it around the parking lot, then around the block a few times with Elena riding shotgun. It's old and a bit rattly, but it accelerates hard, turns well, and feels solid. Like driving a refrigerator with a really good engine. All this can be yours for a meager $560. That's such a good deal you check the whole car again. But it looks good. It's the most expensive thing on the lot in your price range, but maybe it's worth it. Let's take a look at the Nissan Frontier. The pickup is the newest vehicle on the lot in your price range, though that isn't saying much. It's ugly on the outside, rust-stained and salt-streaked. Does someone drive this thing down from Manitoba? It's not particularly fast, and even though it's fairly new, you know it's going to turn like a 53 Mercury. But all that post-2000 passenger safety know-how counts for something. Pound for pound, the Frontier is as tough as the little BMW, and the Frontier has a lot more pounds. If you find yourself rolling into a gunfight, across broken rocks, or back in time to fight Vlad the Impaler's heavy infantry, this is the vehicle for you. And it's black. You take the Nissan around the parking lot, then around the block a few times with Elena riding shotgun. There's plenty of room in here. If you ever need to transport something bigger than a manila envelope, like a cursor sarcophagus, this Nissan is perfect. Still, the driving experience is viscerally unpleasant. It's floaty and slow, the visibility isn't great as you were expecting, and you think something is wrong with the electrical because it doesn't feel like the power steering works right. You're going to hate driving this thing, but it drives. $280. Let's check out the Mitsubishi. This was a blisteringly fast car for its price point back in the day, but its day has passed. Still, the Mitsubishi is a big, muscular GTO with excellent acceleration and handling that is, at least, adequate. And it's blood red, inside and out. The problems start when you check under the hood. You can't tell if that circular thing is supposed to be a turbo or some kind of prototype Roomba from the Clinton administration, but it's all fucked up, whatever it is. The electrical is an over-engineered nightmare, too. When you take the car out for a spin with a Elena riding shotgun, Limp Bizkit's brake stuff almost blows your eardrums out. You can't figure out how to stop the CD from playing, so Elena just pops the whole CD player out with a screwdriver. The acceleration is good, but the turbo is wheezy and unpredictable, and the whole car feels like it could fly apart in a hard turn. $400, Elena says when you get back, shoving the CD player back into place. I'll throw in the corn CDs on the sun visor for free. One of them is live at Woodstock 99. Let's see if we can get Elena to give us some discounts here. So is that a what are they called? A Klingon knife? I don't know how to pronounce that. A Tajik? No, Elena says. Her pronunciation is flawless, and you can't afford it. It's solid silver. For killing werewolves, I guess. Her tone says she doesn't believe in werewolves. Christ, are there werewolves in Tucson? Maybe you should buy it. And I'm not selling it anyway, because I think the guy who sold it might actually come back, she says. She unlocks the case and hands you the crooked silver blade. This has to be the one that Tremere was holding in the video. Elena goes back to messing on her phone. Oh. We can confer with the blade and unlock its secrets. Let's do some fucking blood sorcery. Your sire's approach to thaumaturgy was never conventional, and you've picked up all sorts of rituals from outside the narrow confines of the Tremere's broken pyramid. You breathe over the silver blade and watch its edge crawl with red spiderweb patterns. Within, you see Jasper Knowles forging the weapon, eyes wild with the beast as he forces himself to hammer on the blade over an open flame. But to your disappointment, you see that the weapon isn't some artifact of Tremere sorcery. Its creation was just a test of Knowles' courage in the face of fire. It might have been important to him, but it's just a silver knife. And then you see the next person to pick it up. Hello, Julian. The Banu Hakim's pale face creases in disappointment, a copy of your own expression. Just a knife, he says? Man, that sucks. Then a shadowy image of Elena examining the knife, and then you snap back into the present. Other than the pawnbroker, and now you, Julian Sim was the last person to hold this blade. You going to kill werewolves or what? Elena says. You return the blade to its case, having learned all you can. So Julian was the last person to hold this knife. So it somehow made its way from Jasper Knowles to him. Interesting. Let's see. We're not charismatic at all. We are not good at manipulation or intimidation at all. We have a little bit of wit, and I think we have some streetwise. We do have streetwise. That's what, 5 dots total in that skill check. That's pretty good. We're gonna try to look for other stuff. I'll be back, you say. I'm not even really open, she calls, but you're out the door. Without a ride, you can't go far, so you roam up and down this dreary boulevard. You slip into a few other pawn shops that are still open late, but the owners are uninterested in sharing client details and suspicious of your intentions. But you know your way around a lot of streets, and, given time, you can make inroads here, but sunrise is always coming, and you never have enough time. You head back to Covenant. You're gone so long that Elena is just finishing up The Irishman when you get back. She makes you sit through the end and says, "See, I offer the best deals around." Well, that was a nice try. Let's just shop, I guess. Well, whatever. Let's see. I want to try with Elena. See if we can do it. What do we got? We have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. This is terrible. Let's try it. I flirt with Elena, try to feel out some kind of alliance. Where'd you get your tattoos, you ask, touching her wrist where the last... Oh, don't touch someone. Touching her wrist where the last trailing spiral of a biomechanical tail is visible. Look with your eyes, she says, pulling her jacket down. And I'm not the merchandise. Buy something or get out. She steps away and watches you with cold, glittering eyes behind her glasses. Maybe she thinks she knows what you are. She's definitely suspicious. That could spell trouble. Well, that was a smooth move. We didn't quite get it done there. Let's get the BMW 3. There's not a lot of bureaucracy here. I give her $560. She gives me the keys, the registration, and an object she obviously doesn't recognize. A Peter Gabriel mixtape for the BMW's non-functional tape deck. You check the ashtray, but no one left any cocaine. So we have $343 left. Apparently we used a sword before, so we should probably try to get one. Most of Elena's sword are shitty mall katanas that you couldn't use to beat a chihuahua to death. A few are the real deal and start at $2,500, but one has a price tag of only $300. Elena unlocks the case and hands you the Bavarian M1869. Someone refurbished this, but they also removed the keons. It's supposed to be a bayonet, but now it's almost like a machete with a better balanced blade. And the balance is really good. You flick it in the air a few times, getting a feel for it. Now this is a vampire stopper. Heavy enough to chop through limbs or necks, it's nonetheless a precision instrument, reliant on your agility and training. Is it authentic, you ask? You actually don't care, because unlike everyone else who comes here, you might actually need to kill someone with this thing. Well, it was, Elena says, until the guy who used to own this place cut off the, what's the word? The handguard part so he could practice a screamo with it. And since its value as an antique is ruined, you can afford it. That would be basically all of our money. Let's see what the gun options are here. Oh boy. You don't want to drive around with a rifle or a shotgun, so you scan the pistols and revolvers. Most are cheap, badly maintained, or overpriced. A few are all three, but you finally spot a Springfield Armory XDM behind a 6-hour you can't afford. $400, Elena says, handing you the 45 so you can check out how it feels. It looks bulky in the case, but it settles easily into your hands. Elena watches you as you rack the slide and sight down the barrel. You'd need something bigger to knock down a vampire or even an old and powerful ghoul, but this is the perfect anti-human weapon. One round will take a regular mortal out of the fight, and it fits under your leather jacket without being too obvious. Unfortunately, you can't afford it right now. I think we're just done here, because I doubt we're going to be able to afford a computer for $300 either. Okay. It's 2:16 according to your knockoff Panerai when you pull out of Covenant Pawn Shop in your new BMW 3 Series, and sunrise is 6:29 a.m. It's still early, so you drive around for an hour just to find the cheapest gas stations and the fastest ways out of town. Then you accelerate smoothly onto the East Broadway Boulevard near a plasma center and head for the garage address you got earlier. When a shadow crosses the hood of your BMW, you look up and catch a glimpse of a wing eclipsing a street light. Was that Prince Leto's eagle? You find your spot in the underground parking garage. Right in front of it is a metal door with a keypad. You grab everything from your BMW, lock it, and enter the code. Inside is an office with peeling linoleum floors, an ancient metal desk with a rusty mini fridge on it, and a sleeping bag. A short tile corridor ends in a jury-rigged shower and drain. There's a clear plastic bag with some toiletries on the tile, and a bottle of 409 that won't do anything against the smell of mildew. There's no Wi-Fi. Still, it's better than sleeping in an abandoned semi-trailer, and your phone actually gets good reception. Even better, there are escape routes into the sewers that you can use. You loosen the grates and make sure you have a clear route into the sewers in case you're exposed. You're just getting settled when you hear the door lock beep. The metal door opens, and there's Julian Sim. Here's Julian. Look at this boy here. A new personal low, Julian says. He's wearing a Glitch t-shirt and a smile. He starts to enter, then looks down and says, "You have to invite me in." Let's see. Play it cool by smelling opportunity here. Julian was always brilliant. Fine. Enter freely and of your own free will. Now what do you want? Like always, Pyre, I want to help, Julian says, stepping aside and glancing back at your BMW. Then he tosses you a tiny webcam. This was in your ceiling, by the way. Give me your phone and I'll take care of the tracking there. He looks so young, you think, as he wanders in and out of your shitty crash pad, sweeping for bugs. For some reason, you expected him to age. You look at yourself in your BMW's side view mirror. You haven't aged either. Man, it's been a while, Julian says, leaning against the doorframe. I remember the nights we spent keeping that elder asleep with offerings of blood. The days curled up together in the desert. Wasn't it romantic? Let's see. I'm not saying anything about what happened when we were fledglings. How have you been? Good, good, Julian says, catching your hint. Getting rich, being smart, you know how I am. He glances around your new hovel again. Anyway, we need to discuss your clan and the things they get up to in their research. I've been working with Jasper Knowles lately. Terrible what happened to Jasper. Of course, it's also terrible what he did to that sewer rat. And that Outlander. And that... Anyway. What's worse is lately that I've been working with Jasper, not canite to canite, but man to man, as it were. That's a problem for my daytime persona. The truth, Pyre, is that I actually maintain the company we... Oh shit, you already know, don't you? You remember seeing 2100X on those records on Prince Leto's table, but you don't say anything, you just shrug. Julian smiles and says, "Sometimes you really do impress me. I suppose you also know that I sold the silver knife he was using to Covenant Pawn Shop." Again, you refuse to respond, and again Julian smiles. "You're too clever," he says. "The Camarilla would kill you for being that smart." Let's see. I'll tell him he's been busy. "I've been too busy, Pyre," the Banu Hakim says. "Where should I begin? Since the Convention of Thorns, the Masquerade has protected us from mortal scrutiny. We hide what we are. We live in the shadows, but that can't last." He has like a PowerPoint presentation as he's saying this. He tosses the USB webcam up and down. "The Second Inquisition should have taught us that. One day soon, humans will learn the truth. This is inevitable. Do you know why Jasper Knowles decided to end his experience with that Nosferatu? Because someone filmed it when it got out. Then he called me to turn the video from a Masquerade breach into a trailer for a new student horror film. I had to fake some date stamps, but the Tremere paid me well. That's going to happen more and more, Pyre. And eventually it's going to be happening every night, all the time, always on, constant streaming. We must stop offering a hard wall against this inevitability and start creating a guided path for the mortals. We need a glide path to abolishing the Masquerade. Let's see. Holy way, humans will be forced to view the world. That's ambitious and fascinating. Familiar with this kind of speculation. Walled gardens and limited information. Years from now, all I need to survive. Not turning humans into pets to kindreds. We can get another 100 years of online. That first one. I'm glad you're interested, Julian says. This is all speculative, of course. Anything real is years away. But we need to begin now. Honestly, we should have begun the moment people got camcorders, but we still have time. Tomorrow, now that you have this beautiful machine, Julian says, banging the hood of your BMW, Prince Leto will give you one of 3 USBs. Would you like to know what's on them? He doesn't let you answer. One warns the Bruja Patermuster about renovations to the hospital that will expose his followers. One informs the Tremere video call that her mentor Jasper Knowles is dead, and that her funding is cut off because her facility's contacts with mundane biomedical research firms threatens the Masquerade. One tells the Ventru Elin Olivkrona that the Second Inquisition is coming for her little prison buffet down at the border. Wherever you go, the people there will use you or destroy you to escape what's coming, and it's all happening because of Jasper's experiments. Cat, move please. Move please, cat. Thank you. Let's see. So what do you want me to do? I want you to keep your head up for information about the Second Inquisition that might affect my work. That's all. I won't even ask you to work against Prince Leto or the Camarilla. Just watch for the SI. But first, let me demonstrate how disposable you are to the Prince. Now think back to what I taught you. Where is the best place to begin, Pyre? The walls? Leto's thralls? His pet bird, Riga? Another damn test. Julian used to love these. But your relationship with the Camarilla and his traditions is cool at best, and Julian always had a knack for spotting spies. He watches you as you look around your little garage, trying to ignore your lingering hunger. Let's see. We don't have clandestine, right? Oh, we have hella clandestine, actually. Never mind. We're doing that. This isn't just about impressing Julian, but about checking the quality of Leto's goons. Oh, and just real quick, I'm probably going to go until the end of this chapter, and then call it a night, because house music will be happening soon. Checking the quality of Leto's goons. You don't want amateurs watching you. They might make a mistake and put you in danger. You leave Julian outside your room, where he starts sweeping your BMW for bugs while you pad down the far side of the garage. The Chinese guy was there, you hear a voice say. He's doing, I don't know, I think he's offering them a job. You hide in the shadows and memorize the features of the 2 men as they come around the corner. One is Carlos, the music lover from the Elysium, looking tired and angry. You don't know the little guy with the Arizona Diamondbacks jersey and the gold necklace. Why do we have to wander around here like assholes, the little guy says. Isn't there a camera? Fuck if I know, Carlos says. But this new fella, Leto thinks maybe they're with the SI. Can we say SI, the little guy asked. I guess. Like, we can't say it on the phone, I think. Look, it's a half hour to sunrise. The new fella is all snuggled down. Let's get some coffee and see what Lana's doing. You don't hear the response as the two get into their car, a powder blue Lotus Spirit Turbo, and take off blaring Perturbator. So this guy also was the one who delivered the package to us previously, getting us to the pawn shop. They're right to be afraid of the Second Inquisition, Julian says when you get back. The SI has infiltrated the U.S. government, or maybe it was always the U.S. government. Who knows? Prince Leto is hiding how afraid he is. If he thinks you're involved with them in any way, he'll panic, and you know what princes do when they panic. He takes out his phone, checks the time, and frowns a little. You're going to need better security than this if you stay here. What are you going to rig up? Cameras? Poison gas like we used in Fort Worth? Old-timey runes of warning painted in blood? Maybe that last one. Despite the late hour, it takes a while to get Julian off the subject of security. Finally, he drops his voice and says, "You need to be ready for the SI Pyre. Anyway, I've been thinking about Ayla." Let's see. Shut the fuck up, or someone's listening. I regret what I did that elder every night. Why bring up our crimes now? Let's not speak of those we lost. Are you planning more of that sort of thing, Julia? I tell him to shut the fuck up. You mean for what you did, Julian says. Own up to your actions, Pyre. You cross the little room before he can react, and to his credit, Julian realizes he's overstepped. He holds up in his hands and turns away, baring his neck, almost like Ayla did. Or did she? You've buried those memories, squeezed them out of your mind, but sometimes you still feel the elder you consumed in your blood, as if she did not die all the way when you took her life and her soul. You shake your head. The memories fade again, yours and hers. Ayla is dead. Even the stains of your soul have faded. It's almost sunrise, Julian says, checking his phone again. I'm late for prayer. He slips a business card out of his glitch hoodie and says, with my usurper contact dead, my old Denver company 2100X is on hiatus. But I'm thinking about the future, the 22nd century. Think about that, Pyre. It's sort of a blank spot in our imagination. I mean, human imagination, too. We talked about the 21st century as kids. We can still, in a way, imagine the far future. But what's coming? What's it going to be like 80 or 100 years from now? Because I plan to be there, and I want your help. You're getting the impression that the Camarilla wants you. Maybe Prince Leto just wants you as a patsy in case the Second Inquisition hits him like the fist of God, but he hasn't mistreated you yet. Do you know that kindred of the Camarilla do not serve two masters? Let's see. Call you. I'm going to ask him for details later. I still haven't decided on the details, Julian says, but I'll be in touch. Figure out where you're going first, and I'll try to help. He hands you a card with information about how to reach him, the motel where he's staying, and the location of a drop box. There's a little glyph, like a knife doodle on the end. A karambit, he says. I'm not exactly a regular member of Clan Banu Hakim, so that's what I'm using instead of the old 2100 logo to mark my holdings. No name yet, just the mark. Look for it, Pyre. Then he opens the door to your little office room, scans the shadows, and disappears down the garage, in no evident hurry despite the proximity of sunrise. The metal door swings shut. You let the shock of Julian Sims' return fade, then check your knockoff Panerai as you take it off. It's 6:20 a.m. You secure the door, drop the deadbolt, and strip out of your leather jacket. You don't even have time for a shower, so you just unroll the sleeping bag and make sure your phone is charging. You dream of flying high over the Alps at night, the roar of a single-seater engine in your ears, a silk scarf wrapped around your throat to keep off the cold, though you are already colder than anything else in these skies. Your dream ships to a huge moon over a city you know so well that no name comes to mind, all turquoise domes and tall towers, black against the midnight sky. And then the same city, except it is only a village. Low mud huts, donkeys, children laughing. It's morning, and the sun feels hot against your back and your bare limbs. Not dreams, memories. And one last memory, one you know isn't yours. You remember forcing your eyes open after years of darkness and looking up at two eager fledglings, one from your own clan, one Tremere. You remember watching, frozen, as the Tremere's fangs slide out. You open your eyes for real and check your phone. It is 5:49 p.m. Sunset. Ayla is asleep again. Your fangs are protruding. You shake your head until they go away, though you keep remembering the coating of dust on the elder's throat as you sink your teeth into her. You shower, scraping the last of the filth out from under your fingernails. Then you decide where you're going. You don't want to keep Prince Leto waiting as you make a decision. I think dealing with the sire up front is probably going to be the best move. She sounds like she's getting herself into trouble with the Camarilla. Maybe I can help get her out. All right, and that's the end of the chapter. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me here. This was a lot of fun. It's been pretty interesting so far. This is all stuff that I kind of already saw when someone else streamed the game. But it's interesting to see kind of how you can mess around with it, get it to be a little bit different. But anyway, don't have much else to say other than have a good evening. I'll catch y'all later. Good night.